Hello, friends, and welcome back to Nourish with Regina podcast, where we talk about transforming your plate and transforming your life. I am so glad you're here today because this episode is one that I think a lot of people quietly wonder about. You might hear things and say things to yourself like, oh, I'm just getting older. My joints hurt because of age. My energy isn't what it used to be. My metabolism has slowed down. And somewhat along the way, we have chalked all of those up to just normal aging, believing that feeling inflamed and tired and foggy and achy is just part of aging. But today, I want to challenge that idea because what many people think of as normal aging is often something else. It's chronic inflammation. And the beautiful thing is, inflammation isn't something that we're powerless against or that we have to silently suffer through. Our bodies are incredibly responsive to the way we nourish them, which is amazing for us. We're actually going to talk about today what inflammation actually is and how it connects to aging, and most importantly, how you can support your body in ways that help you feel vibrant for many years to come. So, what is inflammation exactly? Inflammation is actually a protective response from the body. It's part of your immune system doing its job. So, if you cut your finger, your body sends immune cells to the wounded area, and the area becomes red and swollen and warm. That's inflammation. And in that situation, it's a good thing. We call that acute inflammation. It's short term, it doesn't last long. But there is another type of inflammation that many people suffer from that we really need to talk about. And this is the kind we're going to be focusing on today. And it's also where a lot of our aging problems begin. So, unlike the kind of inflammation that shows up when you sprain your ankle or cut your finger, chronic inflammation is much quieter. It doesn't always come with obvious redness or swelling like acute inflammation does. Instead, it's more like low level fire that stays burning in the background of our body for months or even years. And that happens when our immune system stays slightly activated for long periods of time. Now, remember, the immune system is incredibly smart. Its job is to protect you from threats, bacteria, viruses, injuries, toxins. It's constantly scanning your body and your environment and responding. But when the body is exposed to repeated stressors, like highly processed foods, poor sleep, chronic stress, environmental toxins, or gut imbalances, the immune system can stay switched on longer than it should. And instead of turning on when needed and then turning off again, it stays continually activated. And when this happens, the body begins experiencing what we call systemic inflammation. That means inflammation that isn't localized to one area of the body or an infection or an injury. It's circulating throughout our body and happens all over all at once. Pardon me. And over time, that creates a kind of background stress in your system. So you might not notice right away, but slowly it begins affecting multiple areas of the body. You might get up in the morning and your joints are stiff and achy. Your blood vessels can become irritated, which contributes to cardiovascular issues over time. Your brain can feel the effects too. People often describe things like brain fog, low motivation, or difficulty concentrating. Like I even joke, like if I don't write stuff down, it's never going to happen because my memory is so bad. Your digestive system may start to struggle with bloating, irregularity, food sensitivities. Maybe you can't eat things that you've always been able to eat. Now they upset your stomach, or cause you discomfort. Even your hormones can be influenced by inflammation because inflammatory signals interfere with the way our hormones communicate with our cells in our body. And this is where people often start saying things like, oh, I'm just tired all the time. My joints always hurt. I can't lose weight like I used to. My metabolism feels slower. Those symptoms are often brushed off and pushed under the rug as just aging, especially from a woman's standpoint. I know I've been to the doctor and complaining of these things, and you're like, well, just, you're at that age. And that's such a sad response because it doesn't have to be this way. In many cases, all these signs, they're signs and signals that your body is giving you to let you know you have an inflammation issue. These signals tell your body that it's carrying a higher inflammatory load than it should be. So, research published in journals like Natural Medicine and The Lancet have shown that chronic inflammation is connected to many of the diseases that we associate with aging, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, arthritis, autoimmune disorders. Scientists even have a term for this phenomenon now. They call it inflammaging. Clever, huh? It literally means inflammation-driven aging. But here's the hopeful part. And I really, really want you to hear this and hear it clearly. Chronic inflammation is highly responsive to lifestyle. Foods we eat, the amount of sleep we get, and the quality of sleep we get, how we move our bodies, how we manage our stress, all of these daily habits send signals to the immune system. And those signals can either keep that inflammatory response down or they can keep it burning. So when we talk about longevity and aging well, we're really talking about reducing unnecessary inflammation, not eliminating the immune system because our immune system is very important. We need it, but helping to return balance to our bodies, helping our immune system respond when necessary and rest when the threat is gone. And that's where nourishment becomes so powerful because every meal, every night of sleep, every moment of movement that we gift our bodies is an opportunity to, to give ourselves a message. You are safe. You can repair. You can restore. Those are all very positive things and things our body needs to hear. And in that is where longevity begins. And research over the past 2 decades have shown that chronic inflammation is connected to many of the conditions that we can heal and prevent through nourishment and healthy habit. So, in other words, it's not something that's completely outside of your control. The body is constantly responding to the signals it receives from your daily habits. And those signals come from things like food, sleep, movement, and stress, like we talked about. Think of it this way. Your immune system is always listening, kind of like a toddler. Every choice you make throughout the day is sending your body information. The food you eat sends signals. How well you sleep sends signals. The amount of sleep you get can send signals. Whether you move your body or sit all day at a desk, send signals. Even your emotional stress levels send signals. And those signals influence whether inflammation rises or settles down. Even your emotional stress levels send signals. So let's start with food because this one is one of the most powerful levers we have. It's one I'm particularly fond of. I love healing through food and giving our body the nourishing vitamins and minerals and nutrients that it needs. But when we eat a diet that's high in ultra processed foods, things like refined sugars, highly processed oils, packaged food, those foods tend to be overall not good for us, but they promote inflammatory responses from our body. They can spike your blood sugar. They can disrupt your gut bacteria. If you remember, I think it was January, we talked a lot about gut health and how those ultra processed foods really disrupt the gut microbiome, and our gut health is so important to living a healthy life. They can even increase oxidative stress. But when we shift to a whole food way of eating, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, high quality proteins, herbs, spices, those foods often contain antioxidants, polyphenols, fiber, and healthy fats that keep our inflammatory pathways calmed down. So this is such good news, right? Food can either fan the flame or it can cool it. So sleep. I think probably many of us are not getting good quality of sleep or enough sleep, and sleep is one of the most underrated anti-inflammatory tools that we have. During sleep, your body repairs tissue. It also regulates hormones and resets your immune system. So research has shown that even a few nights of poor sleep can increase inflammatory markers in the bloodstream. And that's why people feel achy or foggy or run down when they're constantly sleep deprived. Sleep isn't just rest, it's a time when your body actively repairs itself. Next, we're going to talk about movement. Regular movement helps regulate immune activity. It improves your circulation and it reduces inflammatory signals in the body. You don't need extreme workouts to see the benefits of this either. Something as simple as walking, stretching, or light strength training helps the body move lymphatic fluid, improve insulin sensitivity, and support metabolic health. So movement tells the body we're alive, we're active, and everything is functioning. We're also going to talk about the lymphatic system later, but we need movement to move our lymphatic system because it doesn't have a pump like your circulatory system does. You know, your circulatory system has the heart. Your lymphatic system has to move through movement. Now stress, and this is a huge one. When we experience chronic stress, and it's hard not to in this day and age, right? Everything's so busy and rushed, and especially if you have kids, you're driving them around and you're not eating dinner on a regular schedule and you feel like you have 101 million things to do. We live stressful lives. So whether it's emotional stress or work stress or lack of rest or feeling constantly overwhelmed, the body produces higher levels of cortisol, that stress hormone we've talked about before, and other stress hormones. Over time, those stress signals keep the immune system on alert, which contributes, you guessed it, to chronic inflammation. So that's why things like breathing exercises, prayer, time outside, connecting with loved ones, and creating moments of calm throughout our day are actually powerful health practices. They tell our nervous system that it's safe to relax. And when the nervous system settles down, inflammation often begins to settle too. So when you look at it all together, food, sleep, movement, and stress, these daily patterns act like a set of dials. And these dials influence how much inflammation the body carries. And the encouraging thing is you don't have to get anything perfect because none of us are perfect, right? But we need to be consistent in what we're doing. You don't have to change everything overnight. You know, inflammation is the chronic inflammation is not something that happened to you overnight. It's happened over time, and it's going to take time to dial it back down to healthy levels. So like I said, even small improvements in one or more of these areas can start sending different signals to your body. Signals that support healing, repair, resilience. That's why lifestyle matters so much when we talk about longevity. Because aging well isn't just about genetics. And while those don't hurt, it's about the environment we create for our bodies every single day. So let's talk about why inflammation accelerates aging. Inside every cell of your body, you have structures called mitochondria. If you remember back to like seventh grade biology, the mitochondria are often referred to as like the energy factories of the cell. So we're going to talk about something that happens at much smaller levels inside the body, inside the cells themselves. Inside nearly every cell in your body are the tiny structures called mitochondria. You often hear them referred to as power plants or the energy factory of the cell because their job is to convert nutrients from food into usable energy for your cells. So every heartbeat, every muscle contraction, every thought you have, all of that requires energy. And this energy is produced by the mitochondria. So when those energy factories are working efficiently, the body tends to feel energized and vibrant. You have steady energy, your tissue repairs well, your cells are able to keep up with your daily wear and tear because they're getting the restoration time as well. But when inflammation stays elevated for long periods of time, the mitochondria really start to struggle. Chronic inflammation creates a kind of cellular stress that interferes with how efficiently the mitochondria produce energy. They can still function, but they're not producing energy at their ultimate level. They're like barely scraping by. When energy production slows at the cellular level, people often begin noticing symptoms. Things like fatigue or slower recovery after exercising, brain fog, or just feeling, like your body doesn't bounce back. You're just kind of dragging all the time. It's not just in your head, it's actual physiology. Inflammation is literally affecting how your cells generate energy. And at the same time, chronic inflammation also increases something called oxidative stress. You can think of oxidative stress as like an internal kind of wear and tear. During normal metabolism, the body produces small amounts of molecules called free radicals. And we've all heard about free radicals, and they're not good, right? In healthy conditions, the body kind of balances those free radicals with antioxidants and can neutralize them. But when inflammation is elevated, the production of these reactive molecules increase. And if the body doesn't have enough antioxidant support from foods like vegetables, fruits, herbs, and healthy fats, those molecules begin damaging cellular structure. They can damage proteins, DNA, and the membranes that protect our cells. So this is like bad news, right? And this accumulation of oxidative stress is one of the biological processes scientists believe contribute to the physical changes we associate with aging. But there's another layer to this as well, and that's hormones. Chronic inflammation has a powerful effect on hormonal balance. One example is insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar. Inflammation can interfere with the way cells respond to insulin, which is something called insulin resistance. When cells stop responding properly to insulin, blood sugar becomes harder to regulate, and the body has to process more insulin to keep up, which over time can lead to fatigue, weight gain, and metabolic stress. Inflammation can always also affect your thyroid, which plays a huge role in metabolism and energy production. When inflammatory signals are elevated, thyroid hormone conversion, so your body takes one thyroid hormone and transforms transforms it into another usable hormone for your body. That conversion can be highly disrupted when chronic inflammation is happening. So, one reason people with chronic inflammation often report symptoms like sluggish metabolism, low energy, or difficulty losing weight. And then there's cortisol, which is our primary stress hormone. Inflammation and cortisol have a two-way relationship. So, chronic stress raises cortisol, and elevated cortisol can contribute to inflammation, creating kind of this vicious cycle where one feeds the other over and over again. So over time, that cycle can leave people feeling exhausted, but wired, maybe fatigued but unable to sleep well, or stuck in a pattern where their body feels constantly stressed. About 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and these symptoms were all indicators that my thyroid was part of the problem. So, eating better and nourishing my body with whole foods, kind of cutting out the junk food. I even have gone gluten-free because for me that has helped. But these are real symptoms. So don't ignore the signals your body is giving you. Like really pay attention to it and try things and see what makes you feel better and what makes you feel worse. So when we talk about inflammation and aging, we're not just talking about one system of the body. We're talking about energy production, cellular repair, hormonal signaling, immune balance, all interacting with each other. Remember, our body is a complicated web of systems and processes that have been miraculously designed to work in unison. It really is something so beautiful that our human minds, I don't think, can even comprehend the depth of all of it. But the good news is that many of these systems are highly responsive to lifestyle. So you can feel better. When inflammation decreases, your mitochondria in your cells function better. Oxidative stress decreases, hormones begin communicating more effectively again, and people often notice improvements in energy, mental clarity, digestion, and resilience, which is why the goal isn't to eliminate inflammation completely. We need it for protecting and healing. Our goal is balance and to support the healthy kind of inflammation, that acute inflammation that's going to, protect us, and kind of decrease the chronic inflammation that we're feeling. So that's the kind of environment where the body can truly thrive. And when our systems, our bodily systems are out of balance, you're going to experience things like weight gain, brain fog, sleep disruption, persistent fatigue. Several years ago when I was trying to, find out what exactly my body responds to the best, and I called them my 3 o'clock headaches. It seemed like every day at 3 o'clock, I had a pounding headache. All I wanted to do was sleep. It was terrible. So I made some adjustments to my diet, added a few vitamins, and I no longer have my 3 o'clock headaches, and it's fantastic. So if you feel like your body is slowing down or you're having these daily reactions at specific times, like kind of take note about what's going on at those times of day, or, what you've eaten earlier in the day. We really have to learn to listen and honor our bodies. It isn't our bodies that are failing, it's the response they have to inflammation. And that means there's always room for change, which is such good news. We're not like destined for a painful, immobile, aged life, Unfortunately, some inflammation is okay, but chronic inflammation isn't inevitable. It's not a place that we all have to end up because it's just part of getting old. One of the most encouraging things in modern health research is that inflammation is simply not a consequence of getting older, but it is heavily influenced by lifestyle. So there's been a lot of studies of what they've labeled as blue zones. So these are areas where people regularly live into their 90s and 100s. One of the things is the people who are living to these old ages show remarkably low levels of chronic inflammation. So researchers studying in Sardinia, Okinawa, and Icaria have found that their longevity patterns share common themes. So we want to take notes of these things these people eat or do. Whole food, plant-rich diets, regular movement, strong social connections. Like go out and make friends and hang out with your friends. It's so good for our emotional stress and just our soul. For me, anyways, I love the friendships I have, and I gain joy from being with the people I love. Rest and very low levels of ultra processed food. So these patterns consistently correlate with lower inflammatory markers in the blood, including the C-reactive protein, which tells us something really powerful. Aging itself is inevitable. All of us are going to age. We're all going to get older. But accelerated aging driven by inflammation often isn't. So, anti-inflammatory foods. One of the most powerful tools we have for lowering inflammation is food. And if you don't know me, I love food and I love being in my kitchen. But not in a restrictive way. Like we're not saying don't eat these things. We're talking about ways we nourish our body that helps lower chronic inflammation. Certain foods consistently show up in research as supporting lower inflammation levels. Fatty fish like salmon, they provide those omega-3 fatty acids that are so important, which help balance inflammatory signaling molecules. Colorful fruits like berries contain polyphenols. They're high in antioxidants, which is fantastic. Remember, we talked about how those antioxidants fight the free radicals in our body. Leafy greens, those are going to provide you with magnesium and chlorophyll, and both of those things repair cellular structures. Extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil contains compounds shown to reduce inflammatory pathways, and spices like turmeric, ginger, those contain natural anti-inflammatory compounds that have been studied extensively. So I'm going to give you one of my favorite anti-inflammatory recipes. You can try it this week for lunch. This makes 2 servings, so you could make it for you and a friend or a spouse, or you can make it and have it the next 2 days for lunch. But it's an anti-inflammatory salmon power bowl. So this bowl brings together several of the foods we just talked about. Omega-3 rich salmon, leafy greens, antioxidant-packed berries, healthy fats from olive oil, and anti-inflammatory spices like turmeric and ginger. So you're going to need 2 salmon fillets, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, a half a teaspoon of turmeric, a half a teaspoon of grated fresh ginger, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a pinch of sea salt, and a squeeze of lemon. So in your bowl, I want you to put 3 to 4 cups of leafy greens, just a few nice big handfuls of maybe like arugula, spinach, mixed spring greens, kale, whatever you like the best. Spinach is great. I love to add spinach to everything. We're going to do a half a cup of blueberries or strawberries, or you could do a quarter cup of each if you want to mix them, if you're feeling spicy. Half of an avocado, you're getting great healthy fats there. A quarter cup of walnuts or pumpkin seeds, and a half a cup of cooked quinoa or brown rice. I like quinoa, it's a little higher in protein. So, and then you're going to make a very simple dressing that's going to go over all of it. And that's 2 tablespoons extra virgin olive oil, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, pinch of sea salt, and if you want to add a drizzle of honey to it, feel free. So you're going to preheat your oven to 400. I know this is a lot. I will print this off. It'll be on my website, so you'll be able to download this, and I'll put a couple other anti-inflammatory meals with it. It'll just be a one sheet. You can go ahead and download it and print it off. But you're going to preheat your oven to 400, place the salmon on a lined baking sheet, drizzle it with the olive oil, rub it with turmeric and ginger, garlic powder, and salt. And then you're going to bake it for 12 to 15 minutes in the oven. So while your salmon's cooking, build your bowl. Throw the leafy greens in there, top with the berries, the avocado, the quinoa, whisk together your dressing real quick. Really, this is a 20-minute prep time dinner. And then when your salmon's done, put it right on top and then drizzle it with the dressing and maybe a little squeeze of lemon. This is such a healthy, nourishing dish. It's great to have for lunch or dinner. It's going to be filling and it's going to be power packed with so many nutrients and anti-inflammatory weapons, basically. So the salmon, like we said, that's that omega-3 fatty acids that help reduce the inflammatory signaling of the body. The leafy greens, remember, have the magnesium and the chlorophyll, which supports your cellular repair. The berries are rich in polyphenols and antioxidants, and the extra virgin olive oil contains compounds that also help reduce those inflammatory markers. And then, of course, turmeric and ginger. I love spices. I love spicing up my food because spices have so many powerful things going on with them. But these are two of the most studied anti-inflammatory spices in nutrition research. So add them to everything you can if you want, if you like them. The best part, it's not complicated. It's just real food working together in a way that supports the body. And you're going to be so full, you will feel no deprivation at all. And it'll be so delicious that you won't be able to wait to have another one. I promise you. Meals like this are perfect examples of how anti-inflammatory eating doesn't have to be restrictive or complicated. When you build meals around whole foods, healthy fats, complex carbohydrates, colorful produce, quality protein, and powerful spices, your plate naturally becomes supportive for long-term health. One study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that diets rich in whole plant foods significantly reduce markers of systemic inflammation compared with diets high in processed foods. And this doesn't require perfection. It's about patterns. It's about consistency. There's that word again I've used for the last few episodes. Consistency matters. The more often these foods show up on your plate, the more supported your body feels. So food is incredibly important when we talk about inflammation and long-term health, but it's really one piece of the picture. The body is a system, and all of its systems are constantly communicating with each other. So while nourishing foods can be absolutely helpful in calming inflammation, there are other daily habits that can either support that process or work against it. So one of the biggest and most overlooked factors is sleep. We're going to talk about sleep now because I feel like sleep's a big one, and very few people actually get enough sleep or quality sleep. Sleep isn't just a time your body shuts down for the night. It's actually one of the most active periods of repair and regulation that your body experiences. And that's why we need to sleep so our bodies can work. So while you're sleeping, your brain and your immune system are working behind the scenes. They're like the third shift workers. They're ready to get going. They want to reset and rebalance your hormones and repair the tissue that was stressed during the day. And when sleep is consistent and restorative, which is what we want it to be, your immune system is able to regulate itself properly. It knows when to activate and when to stand down. When sleep becomes short or fragmented or irregular, that regulation starts to break down. And research shows, even 1 or 2 nights of poor sleep can increase inflammatory markers in the bloodstream. And that's not good. This can lead to higher cardiovascular risk. When we don't sleep well, the immune system can interpret that as kind of like a stress signal, and your body's going to respond accordingly. So part of the reason for this has to do with hormones. During sleep, especially the deeper stages of sleep, the body releases growth hormone. That hormone plays a key role in tissue repair, muscle recovery, cellular maintenance. When sleep is cut short, that repair window becomes smaller and smaller, and the body doesn't get the same opportunity to restore itself. So sleep also influences your cortisol levels, which is, like we talked about before, your body's primary stress hormone. Normally, cortisol follows a rhythm. It rises in the morning to help you wake up and gradually falls throughout the day so the body can wind down at night. But when sleep is disrupted, cortisol levels can remain elevated longer than they should. Elevated cortisol is closely linked with increased inflammatory signaling in the body. So in a sense, poor sleep stresses you out. It keeps you in like an alert mode, even when there's no actual threat present. So there's also a connection between sleep and blood sugar regulation. Studies show that just a few nights of restricted sleep can make cells less sensitive to insulin, which means the body has to work harder to manage blood sugar levels. And unstable blood sugar is another driver of chronic inflammation. So you can start to see how these systems overlap. Poor sleep increases stress hormones increase inflammatory signals, inflammation disrupts metabolic balance, and suddenly your body is working much harder than it needs to. Just talking about that exhausts me. The encouraging part, though, is that sleep is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory tools we have, and it doesn't require a complicated protocol. Creating a consistent sleep rhythm, allowing your body enough time to rest, and supporting your natural circadian rhythm can make significant differences in how the immune system behaves. So when we talk about reducing inflammation and supporting healthy aging, sleep is not a luxury, it's a must. Like, we have to come up with a plan to get adequate quality sleep. It's actually a fundamental part of how our body repairs. Every night of good sleep is essentially an opportunity for the body to reset inflammation, repair cells, restore balance, and prepare you for the next day. Movement is another key piece. We're just going to kind of reiterate this again. Regular movement is one of the most powerful tools we have for lowering chronic inflammation. And the good news is that, it doesn't have to be a 3-hour workout with a trainer where you're exhausted at the end of it. When we move our bodies, several things start to happen physiologically that can help calm the inflammatory process. First, our movement increases our circulation and it improves it. So blood flow increases, which allows oxygen and nutrients to reach tissue more efficiently and helps carry away toxins and metabolic waste products better. That improves circulation, also supports the lymphatic system, which, as we talked about earlier, is part of the body's natural drainage network. Unlike your heart, your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. It relies on muscle contraction and body movement to circulate fluids through your lymphatic system. So every time you walk or stretch or change positions, you're helping lymph move and supporting immune regulation. So we got to get up from our chairs and move. Exercise also affects the immune system more directly. Using moderate activity, muscles release signaling molecules called myokines. These molecules have anti-inflammatory effects and can help regulate how immune cells behave. Essentially, movement sends a signal to the body that things are functioning normally, And that signal helps balance inflammatory responses. Another benefit of regular movement is how it improves insulin sensitivity. When your muscles are active, they use glucose for fuel more efficiently. So this helps stabilize blood sugar levels. Stable blood sugar is increasingly important because repeated blood sugar spikes can trigger inflammatory pathways. By improving insulin sensitivity, regular movement helps keep those inflammatory signals low. Movement also lowers the stress hormones over time. Chronic stress can keep cortisol levels elevated, which contribute to inflammation. Exercise, especially moderate activity, helps regulate cortisol rhythms and improves mood through the release of endorphins and other neurotransmitters. It's really fascinating. So the question people often ask is, how much exercise do I need to actually see the benefits? Most major health organizations, including the WHO and the American Heart Association, recommend about 150 minutes of moderate activity a week. That breaks down to roughly 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, which is totally doable, right? We can all carve out 30 minutes. Maybe we don't scroll our phones for 30 minutes and get up and move our bodies. And moderate activity just simply means your heart rate is elevated and you're breathing a little harder, but you can still carry on a conversation. So this could include things like a brisk walk, cycling, swimming, jogging, dancing, hiking. Find something you really love to do. Also, especially for women in their midlife era, weight training is something also very good to add. It's, keeps your muscles toned and is good for your bones too. So I just want to emphasize something really important here. Those 30 minutes also don't have to happen all at once. So if you can carve out 15 minutes on your lunch break and then 15 minutes when you get home, or 15 minutes before bed, or whatever your optimal time is, break it up throughout the day if that makes it easier on you. You're still going to get the benefits of it. So for someone with a busy schedule, this might look like taking a 10-minute walk after each meal, which not only adds up to 30 minutes, but helps regulate blood sugar after you're eating too. Park a little further away when you run errands, so you're naturally adding extra walking. Take a short walking meeting instead of sitting at a desk. Do 15 minutes of a body weight workout at home. You don't need equipment. You just do it with your own body, maybe before dinner. Things like squats, push-ups, or even resistance bands if you have those at your disposal. Take the stairs instead of the elevator if that is something that works for you. Even small bursts of movement, like stretching, doing a few yoga poses, or walking around the block, can support circulation and immune balance. It doesn't have to be complicated. Strength training a couple times a week is very beneficial. Muscle tissue plays a huge role in metabolic health and inflammation regulation. Maintaining muscle as we age helps improve insulin sensitivity, and it just supports overall resilience of our bodies. And then there's the mental side of movement as well. Activities like walking outside, gardening, or gentle yoga can calm your nervous system. When the nervous system shifts into a more relaxed state, inflammatory signals often decrease. Remember, inflammation is a response to stressors outside the body. So if we can feel more relaxed and less stressed, the inflammation is going to lower. So we're not talking about, when we talk about exercise or movement, we're not talking about pushing yourself to exhaustion or chasing the most intense workout possible unless you love doing that. I have a husband who absolutely loves working out and pushing himself as hard as he possibly can, and more power to him. That works great for him. He loves it. He thrives on it. Me, not so much. So I do things I enjoy, like cycling or walking. or swimming. So what our body needs most is, again, consistency, consistent, moderate movement. So I would like to challenge you this week to find, we're going to just start with 3 out of our 5 days. So pick 3 days this week that you can carve out either 3 10-minute spots, 2 15-minute spots, or 1 30-minute spot and move your body in a way that sounds fun, exciting to you. Just so we can get into a rhythm of daily activity. Something that raises your heart rate a little, engages your muscles, and helps your body move fluid. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complicated, just consistent movement that you can build into your real life. And then we're going to talk about stress. Chronic psychological stress elevates your cortisol, which we've talked about already, which in turn can drive inflammatory activity through your body. This is why activities like walking, prayer, deep breathing exercises, and time in nature can really have such profound health benefits. These all calm your nervous system. And when the nervous system feels safe, inflammation decreases. So I think one of the most hopeful things about understanding inflammation is realizing that many symptoms we once associated with aging or getting older and that we thought were permanent are actually signals from our body. Signals that your body is asking for support. I've seen clients who thought they were simply getting older, experience improvement in energy, digestion, joint comfort, and mood once inflammation started to decrease. Not overnight, but steadily through consistent lifestyle changes. The body has an incredible capacity to repair when it's given the right environment. And that's one of the miraculous things about our bodies. So let's talk about what a day that supports lower inflammation might look like. Breakfast might be something like eggs and sauteed spinach and some berries on the side. Lunch could be a large salad with leafy greens, grilled salmon, olive oil, or like the salmon bowl we talked about earlier. Dinner, roasted chicken, vegetables, quinoa, and just make sure you're getting enough of that high quality protein. Throughout the day, you're staying hydrated. You're drinking your water. You're walking when possible, and you're prioritizing sleep at night. One hint, if you're scrolling before bed, I want to challenge you to maybe 30 minutes before you want to be asleep, put the phone away. That blue light can really disrupt our sleep patterns, and we're focusing on doable, small habits, lifestyle changes we can put into effect. And I think that's one of the easiest ones to do. And it does actually give you better sleep. None of this is extreme. It's just consistent nourishment. And that's what creates long-term change. So one of the messages I want you to take from this episode this week is feeling inflamed, exhausted, or foggy isn't something you have to accept as part of your permanent future. Your body is constantly responding to the environment you create for it. Every nourishing meal, every good night of sleep, every moment of movement, these are signals to your body that it's safe to repair. Aging well isn't about chasing youth. It's about supporting vitality. So if this conversation was helpful for you and you want more guidance, you can always visit my website, www.nourishwithregina.com, where you'll find free resources, downloads, and information about the coaching programs I offer. You can also follow Nourish with Regina on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube if you'd like to continue learning and growing alongside this community. No pressure, just support when you're ready. So I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm always grateful that you choose to be here and invest a little time in learning how to support your body and your health. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today's conversation is this: your body is not working against you. It's working for you. And sometimes it just needs the right environment, the right nourishment, the right rhythms of rest and movement to do what it was designed to do. And when we begin supporting our body in these ways, it has an incredible capacity to repair, rebalance, and support a vibrant life as we age. Next week, we're going to take this conversation a step deeper and talk about something that I think is both fascinating and incredibly practical. Food as medicine, specifically in the role of culinary herbs and spices. We're going to look at some of the herbs that you might already have in your kitchen, things like turmeric, ginger, garlic, rosemary, and cinnamon, and what the research actually says about these powerful plants, supporting inflammation, digestion, and overall health. I'll also share simple ways you can start using them in everyday cooking without feeling like you need to overhaul your kitchen or learn complicated recipes. Because sometimes the most powerful health tools are the ones that have been sitting in our spice cabinet all along. Until next time, keep nourishing your body. And remember that aging well is not only possible, it's something we can actively support one meal at a time. Thank you again and have a wonderful day. Bye.